Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. We have launched many courses now. There is a 12x yoga course which has been launched in the US, and you can join them who would like to get certified as a yoga instructor. And also, we have the second course is 12x debunking mythology course, which gives you the entire spectrum of Vedic knowledge. And also, if you are a practicing Vedic culture or Sanatan Dharma culture or Hindu culture, that will add significantly to your faith. I have a very, very special guest joining from New York. He has a deep insight into American political spectrum, a very good friend of mine, and Sattology had rewarded him with a recognized, actually not rewarded him, recognized him as a Hindu American leader for 2022 awards. He was one of the first recipients, very, very carefully chose it amongst many millions of Indian Americans in USA. So let us welcome Shri Vibhuti Jha, a very popular face.
Thank you very much, Aditya ji, for welcoming me to this show. And it's a wonderful Wednesday morning. So let's talk about it. You have very correctly coined a phrase called Sattology, the truth, the knowledge of knowledge flowing with the truth, because we know that the world is full of deceptions, playing politics, the art of deception, as Machiavelli and others have tried to put together. So we as a conscious people have to kind of continue to focus on the reality. And the moment we ignore truth, the entire edifice crashes at some point in time or the other. So, as immigrants to this country, we love this country. I said the other day that people may have objection to American exceptionalism, but what one cannot deny is that America remains an exceptional country. And, India is an exceptional country. The world, we are all exceptional people in our own right. So that is a very important thing to how to preserve, perpetuate, and, allow the sentiments to the truth to be holding ground. The moment you allow the truth to suffer, the edifice crashes at some point in time or the other. So these are my warning shots to the young people of America, because they are the future. They have the future. And, tragically enough, we do not know what is going to happen tomorrow, but we do know how to shape the future, because that's in our control. If I have 20 pounds of gulab jamun tonight, I know my future is set for tomorrow, right? So we have to remember how to preserve the good. It requires a lot of hard work. So you are absolutely right that the media, unfortunately, is not doing us any favor. But we are living in a remarkably connected world thanks to technology. News travels faster than even the light speed of lightning, as I prefer to call it sometimes. Today, with the help of this little instrument, we can know the street traffic conditions in Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, and the climate conditions anywhere in the world. So information and knowledge can be available. What we are doing with it is up to you and I. And that's the important decision that the youth has to come to understand, to use the cliche, separate the wheat from the chaff. That's what is important to do it. Yeah.
So, you have a deep financial background. You have been an investment banker with American Express and many other corporations, and you have a deep insight into how the world of money functions. So, one of the things you mentioned is deception, and there was a movie made on deception too. So, what is the biggest deception that is what is happening today, which we are not aware of? Because I see all the warning indicators all over the place, but I do not understand what we are hiding. And I'm very real with you. So what do you think is the biggest deception in the financial space which is happening to most Americans today?
This is very important. When we don't see the bleeding obvious, that's the biggest kind of a deception. Now, deception is a very interesting word. There is one thing that you do not know. So what we do not know, we can't do anything about it. But the important part is, what do we know? And if we don't recognize the truth in that sense, then it begins to hurt us big time. So let's give an example. Currently, we all know that dollar is the king in the world in terms of currency. America is the mightiest of economy in every sense of the term. But if you and I had the debt income ratio that America has, I can bet my life nobody will give us a credit card even for $10. Forget about thousands. That's a that's a reality that we can't live under deception or camouflage by anything else. The ability of America to print notes in a following the change of the Bretton Woods Agreement, dollar is the currency that is the reserve currency of the world. The question is, how long will dollar remain a reserve currency? Because there is an inherent weakness in the political and economic structure of the country. We are printing notes for anything. And that's the issue that the young people must bear in mind. Just a very simple fact. If the students or you and I had the same debt to income ratio that United States has today, we will not write a check for anybody. We will not lend money to that company. We will not lend money to that individual. The media, somewhere along the line, the political system says that we have the infinite ability to print notes and get over the problem. That is coming back to roost because the interest burden on each one of us that we see from time to time on various channels, sometimes people talk about, that the interest burden on American people is becoming very high. It's becoming unsustainable. The youth will have to bear it even more because you will inherit the earth, as the saying goes. So that's a very important element that has to be borne in mind. The second element is the technology-driven deceptions that happen. People tell us that we are all fine, nothing is going to happen. But the good thing for America is one of those countries which I always believe that I've been asked this question many times. The thing about America is that if you just take an example, it has one-fourth India's population. It is larger many multiple times, including Alaska and Hawaii and other places. It's three times larger than India. So, and it's a resource-rich country. So that America has time and has enough internal ability to withstand these things, but now it requires huge amount of sacrifice. Our consumption pattern, our the production patterns, we can't be an importing country all the way. We talk about that we are the largest consuming nation in the world that drives the economies of various countries, and every manufacturer, every businessman wants to do business in America because it's the largest consumer nation. But now, as it is going on, how long will we be able to manage this scenario? Because our credit cards are almost full. And that's important thing to bear in mind.
During lockdown, the credit card usage increased by 15% today, even though the economy, the most of the economic indicators say that the average income has reduced due to inflation and other factors. But the credit card bills, you hit the nail there. The credit card bills have increased by almost 15%, 15%. And it was being discussed prime time on many channels actually, that where is this additional expenditure is coming from? It's coming from credit cards. Now you also said correctly that we're a debt related debt economy where we consume debt, we sell debt, we buy debt, and we are a debt based economy. Now if you look at the ancient principles of economics, which were mentioned in Mahabharata, Ramayana, is that you spend what you earn, and out of what you earn, out of which you save 25% for future, 25% for emergencies, and 50% you actually spend on your income. Now, but if you look at our society today, do you think that it will be a major drastic change to American society if you ask Americans, and or means all of us, to reduce our expenditure?
It has to be done. I believe in Einstein's quotation, and I've implemented it in my life. This is something which is very important lesson of life I learned. That there are books of quotations, you can't read it, You can read the book of quotations, but it will mean nothing if you do not implement the one or two quotations in your life. So Einstein's quotation is something very dear to me when he said, any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to move in the other direction. And what I mean by saying that is, take a very simple example. Obesity is a problem in the US. It's not economy related. It is habit related. It's culture related. We eat, we consume a lot of food. And as a result of which we put on weight. So consider this as a massive weight loss program that United States, the people will have to go into. So putting on weight is the easiest thing in the world. Just go on eating. Don't do exercise. But losing a pound is tough. That's what the practice has to be. It has to be dealt with. Americans, you and I, will have to attend to this crisis because we are suffering right now with all problems obesity related. We have put on so much fat that even in the politically correct world, at the moment, you can't even, they use the word fat shaming. It's sad. Truth cannot be hurt. If I have put on weight, I have to lose weight. Otherwise, I have all the concomitant effects of a bad health situation. We have landed ourselves into obesity of debt in our economy. And that is also culturally in the way we consume things. So when you have to lose weight, there is no choice. You have to enforce, whether you go to various culturally driven programs right now they have to reduce weight, habitual related, practice related, or suddenly popping up a pill that says just pop up this pill and sleep and you will burn fat in your body. So all those things are there, but we as people of America, as concerned about the future of our country and the wealth that we have, we can't let our resources be focused on things that are not germane to our requirement. Remember one thing, so another dictum of mine, the smartest of people make dumbest of mistakes. The history is full of those examples, and I don't need to give you any. You can figure that out yourself. The smart people make dumb mistakes, and we are in an era of multiple dumb mistakes going on in the country because creating a lull of feeling that everything is fine, we will take care of you. No, it doesn't happen. If I have to lose weight, I have to lose weight. You can't lose weight on my behalf. Let us realize some very basic elemental truths that are unalterable. Is one of my famous favorite saying is, if you want to go to heaven, you got to die first, and you got to die first. Nobody else can die for you to experience heaven. These are realities, ground realities. Money is an instrument. Money, people equate sometimes money doesn't bring happiness. Money is not supposed to bring you happiness. It's a medium of exchange. Don't use money as a qualitative assessment of other physical realities. It is not. Money has nothing to do with the values. What you do with money is what is important for you. Losing weight, you are absolutely right. We are in a crisis situation. We have become a 400-pound gorilla, and we have to become fit in the frame that allows us to do things rightfully. So at the moment, I'm not going to go into the numbers of debt and whatever things are going on. I'm trying to point out the bleeding obvious. We talked about deception. Be careful about what the politicians and the bankers say. At the moment, we know that, I can tell you many stories, but I don't want to do that because these are all available on internet if you want to do that. Just Google one question and you will have hundreds of answers for that. I'm trying to say to you is that we have to immediately get into the mood and the atmosphere in which you and I will have to take individual responsibility to fix things. That's what is important. Printing notes for climate change is meaningless exercise if we do not change our habit today. What are we doing? They are trying to bring the earth temperature by a certain 2 degrees by 2050, but I'll be dead. Majority of the people will be past the middle age era in this program. The question is, will we be ready to accept the world if we are not doing anything today? Weight loss happens because you begin to take those basic steps today. Then you lose 20 pounds in 6 months' time. You can't lose 20 pounds overnight. Let's begin to understand the reality, the truth, because that's the moment we allow truth to become a victim, we end up being in the world of deception.
One of the very popular arguments which I hear on the ground is invest in real estate. And if you do not know how to work the land, how will that real estate help you? Because that will be just a barren investment because people have been so moved away from directly working with the earth, and the lifestyle doesn't allow you to live on the earth also, which the Native Americans used to very famously say, because the kind of foodstuffs that we eat are mostly imported. We all know that from which countries we get what we get to eat here. So so do you think it's that dire a state coming where people are going in for getting land to cultivate, to get their own food and keep their own animals and going back to the basics where they started from? Do you think it's going to be that bad in few years' time?
Look, you know, it's a very scary proposition because of the simple reason that the world population is expanding and exploding. About 6 years ago, I was on a platform in New York here, hosted by The Economist magazine, and they were talking about the world population increasing at exponential level. So now we know the world population has hit 8 billion and it is projected to hit 12 billion. The question arises, all our problems today are related to use of resources. So if population explodes from 6 billion to 8 billion, guess what happens? We are now using Earth's resources, as we call it in our text, Mother Earth. We are exploiting the Earth's resources to our purposes, building homes, air conditioning, heating, cars, automobiles, as a result of which we are impacting nature the way nature is. So, unless and until we manage the resource to population ratio, we will be exploiting Earth's resources. We will be depending on the Earth resources. You talked about two things: investing in real estate and also using the Earth's resources. So, there are two different things. Investing in real estate is a wise thing in your portfolio. I'm not saying put everything in real estate. I'm a portfolio manager. You always allocate your investments in a manner that suits your future requirements. One of the most beautiful thing about investing in real estate is that is physical, tangible, and it is not going to disappear. Even if the value goes down, depending on the demand and supply or where you are, earth will remain, a land will remain, real estate will remain. It's not going to disappear. Like the FTX crisis, billions vaporized overnight. So one has to have it in his portfolio. When it comes to using the earth's resources, yes, it is very important to bear in mind that the population to resource ratio has to be managed. Climate change, I mean, I lived in two beautiful cities in India, Pune and Bangalore. During my time, both the cities were known as air conditioned cities. We barely used the fan for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a year. Today, the situation has changed. Is it climate related? I do not know because the data on climate is very, very confusing. It depends on which side of the story you are reading and which side of the story you are likely to believe. So the question here is, Bangalore and Pune are now no longer air conditioned city. You need air condition to live properly in that city. Is it urban congestion? Is it the demand and supply on the Earth's resources that is forcing people to come for urban concentration to jobs and life living, or building a lot of infrastructure to sustain the pressure of population? We have to take that into account. It's very, very important that how we manage our people resources through life and death cycles to ensure that Earth's resources are not depleted. We know now that every resource has to come to an end. We know now that Saudi Arabia is also concerned about the depleting oil reserves. People are looking at alternative to oil. So things are that Mother Earth, the God has given every country its own resource base. Not every country has everything, right? So the question is, how are we using our resources? How are we managing our budget? These are very elementary exercises that you and I and the people, particularly the student community, has to begin to realize that knowledge is power, but if you do not apply that knowledge, then that knowledge means nothing. It is not enough to know. What is important is what are we doing with that knowledge. And now what we know, we have access to information that did not exist in my era. So today's youth has tremendous access to information. What are we doing with that information gathering? Does it become knowledge? And if it is knowledge, then what are we doing with it? Is the critical responsibility of the youth of today. In my era, information was power. Then it became knowledge was power. Today, actionable knowledge is power. If otherwise on Google I can figure out anything. But by wearing Federer's kits, I won't become Federer like tennis player. By wearing Tiger Woods clothes, I won't become a golfer like him. But nobody gives you a driver's license just because you memorize the driver's instructions manual. That's the important thing to realize, that your body does what you know. And if your body is not ready to do something, then you that knowledge is waste. That's the point which I'm trying to drive at early morning from New York.
See, one of the things is like if I look at the area, I can France and Portugal. If I combine the two countries, just two countries, and I can fit the 8 billion people in those two countries, each individual having 1,000 square feet of space. So land is not a problem today, even today. The predatory farming, I call it predatory farming because we try to extract maximum out of a small piece of land using chemicals. And most of
Mm,
those chemicals come from petrochemical industry, generally, petro industry. Uh, m- so we erode the soil. Soil erosion is the biggest problem all over the world. It is a
right.
statistically known fact that the soil which was producing a lot of food in Punjab in India, we know how it is now not that fertile, which it used to be. They're regaining that.
Mm,
Now, the second which comes to the point here, the second question here is, uh, so this is the condition of the predatory farming and also illogical drawing of the borders by colonial powers. So the land which used to provide food for the natives of one country are now residing in another country because of illogical borders, and political wars have been created where, like, I'll just give an example of mid Africa, which is below Congo and above Botswana and south above South Africa. Now in that area, one of the most fertile pieces of land in the world, most fertile, you can grow anything you want over there. Now those countries are divided by artificial conflicts, partly driven by the colonial European colonial powers. In America, most of the fertile land now 2% or 2.2% or 2%, less than 2%, less than 2% of American population is engaged in direct agriculture. So which is again a big problem because but it still produces surplus food grains which are normally wasted. We see that. So that there is a so the population is an asset also, and it's a liability when it is not managed properly. Otherwise it's an asset because it you need people to work the farms. So but the question today is that the we are, if you look at the American population, is 80% of population lives on the east of you can say, if you draw a line, North Dakota, South Dakota, right in the center of America, 80% population is on the other side, on the East Coast, down, and the 20% is on the West Coast. And majority of the West Coast, we all know, is mostly coastal cities all the way. Now, there's an uneven distribution of population because of the land formations, because nobody can live on the rocks. But the thing is, this uneven population distribution and also lack of connection with the earth is now has forced us, or maybe by design, to live in a very commercial urban economy. And urban poverty, and I know, is a worse than rural poverty. Rural poverty, people have still got some dignity of life or a way of life they can maintain. But urban poverty is worse because we see homelessness all over the cities in the US. So, what do you think is a solution to these kind of problems which we are facing? Because America is not facing population crisis. If we are not facing, we are sparsely populated. We still need immigration to sustain our farms.
you have brought in several issues. Like putting 8 billion people in Portugal and Spain, is one thing. That's true. There
France.
are 50 people, France. So the question here is that what happens when 20,000 cars arrive on the same expressway? You have congestion. So 8 billion people accommodated in France and Portugal or Spain, whatever, is not the solution to the problem. That's an
No, no.
explanation to
I
the
will
challenge.
just give an
I
example.
got your point.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that same example. So an apartment can easily, single family homes can is meant for single family. That there are people in urban areas, what you were talking about, that 50 people can live in an apartment is a different argument. But you know how it depletes the resources and stress it causes on the system. You are also very right that US doesn't have a people problem. Absolutely correct. People, it is a problem of who do we want? What do I need? That's the issue. We are all immigrants to this country. America can accommodate another 100 million people without much stress on the structure. But the issue here is again, how do we manage our resources? That's the basic fundamental thing that we have to kind of focus on. Right now, what is happening is that games are being played. And as you rightly said, that unless and until we begin to grasp the problem, the truth the way it is, we will keep addressing it in a cosmetic way. So let's talk about one of the key issues right now. The world is besetted with the Ukraine conflict, weaponry sales, Afghanistan, the way we ran from Afghanistan. These are issues that when we let go billions of dollars worth of weaponry around the world, and then we talk about war on terrorism and war on varieties of things. So the war economy has been driving a lot of things around the world. Ukraine is completely devastated, but guess what? Some companies will go there after the cessation of war, some point in time, to rebuild Ukraine again, right? So the resources will be used to rebuild Ukraine. Why not rebuild? Why go into a war-like situation to rebuild the country? Why can't we refocus our resources to develop things in a manner that is required? Just let's take the example of sanction regimes. US is indulging in sanctioning of other countries because people are not subscribing to our way of life. The issue is other people are getting irritated by that. I heard on, of all the people, Larry Kudlow talking about when the FTX collapsed. And Larry Kudlow was talking about the fact that, these people have their company located in tax havens, Singapore and Bahamas and, all these countries, Caribbeans and others. We must have a policy to control those. I was thinking, how many countries are you going to control? If the question is, why would anybody else allow you to control them if you are not fixing your own problem? The problem was not Singapore, where FTX had registered its company. The problem was the greed, the shamefacedness of that young man who pumped money in Democratic Party or political system to take advantage of the laws that exist. So we have to work on many sides of the issue. It's not only one area that needs to be fixed. So you can control the Singapore authority for any American to register a company there, but how will you take care of the greed of us to manipulate things in the manner that it is there? So it's a very serious issue right now. We are talking about deception, truth, myth, and that's what is we have to come to the grips to. Yeah. So this I have also said this. America must not be underestimated at any cost by anybody because we are a resource rich country. We are not a one product country. We are an amazingly resource rich country. We as immigrants work our butt off to make a good living, to achieve economic independence. But if that structure is getting damaged, then what if you're climbing on that structure, then that building will collapse, regardless of how smart we may have been. That's the point which I'm trying to drive at.
Unfortunately, the voices of Indian Americans, Indian Americans are good workers and have been used as workers, and we have done very well with that, whether it's say medicine or technology anywhere else. But our voices are not heard by the mainstream at all. And then gradually we are seeing it's getting heard, but mostly it's not heard. People like your voice and my voice, or people who are on the ground and normally never reaches. Otherwise, we will try to bring some sanity in the craziness right now. Because when the major issue is the economy right now, and the future of this country as a whole, as a nation, we are talking about imaginary things by sanctioning all over the world. And the recent sanction we hear is again going to be China, because if China gets sanctioned, then probably we'll be running for diapers across the trees. We will have to reuse tree leaves. So, what is your view on this sanction diplomacy affecting the American prosperity?
My personal impression is, and you raised a very valid point, is that we are probably not being smart in using our strengths to the desired way. Now, it is very tricky because I'm strong today, so I can threaten you. But tomorrow, when I'm 90 years of age, even if I threaten you, you will not take me seriously anymore. That's the issue at a psychological and a spiritual level that American leadership has to begin to realize. You also said something very interesting, that Indians are good workers. That's true. We have been used as slave labor and immigrant community to work in Africa, in Fiji, and other places. And because we were hardworking people, we survived. We accumulated wealth. We are prosperous. And now our prosperity has become our own enemy, that people look at us from a different perspective, but we have no voice. And the voice of reason, the voice of our ancient Vedic wisdom, that needs to be brought into the mainstream. The reason why people don't listen to us is because we are not making our voices heard, felt, seen, and experienced. Because we are silent people, we are workers, we obey. In Indian family growing stage, we were very proud if we said our child is a very obedient child. Obedience also has its is a very deleterious effect. When you become obedient, then you become a follower. You only listen. You do what you are told to do. Innovation, leadership, initiative, they are needed by us to carry the message forward. Today, fortunately, we have the technology tools. We have people are able to share the wisdom, and it is for us to raise our voice. Let's our vote be counted, our voices be heard, because there is no substitute to moderation being the key. Extremism never drives to a solution. It is only when you awaken to the truth and reality that we find a solution to the problem. Adityaji, I am indulging more in the philosophical content, but in terms of sanction as a physical element, it is becoming very detrimental to American interests. Nobody likes America. I interact with people around the world, and they say, "Who the hell do you think you are to impose your sanction on me? What about if I stop buying American products?" The question is, why would anybody listen to you? Today, sanctioned countries, they have their own justification. There is one political suicidal thing that we do in America. Every politician says, "Oh, we are doing this for American people, for our country. America comes first," which is true. You should do that for that. You cannot let your family, your country, people suffer because of others' actions. But don't we at the same time realize that other countries also have a right, other leaders also have the right to protect the interest of their country and their people? And that is coming in a clash rather openly right now, because China, if the sanction goes on China, believe it or not, you rightly pointed out, we will be suffering from so much absence of consumer goods that China is in virtually every American home in one form or the other, whether you're the dress you are wearing, whether the cup you are using, or the garden chair you are using. China is in our home. Russia is not, because Russia is not a manufacturing hub for any country in the world. As a result of which, if we end up doing a sanctioned gameplay, chess play, we will end up checkmating ourselves, to use the chess language. And that's what is important. People have begun, they have wisened up to this entire thing. They say, if you can do that to me, I can do that to you too. And that boldness or that courage, other countries are trying to tell us that you can't impose your will on us just because you want it to do. And we need to be wiser about that, because we can't let our strength fritter away, waste it.
Thank you so much, Ji, for coming. Vibhuti Jha. This is Vibhuti Jha. He's a very famous TV host for Jaipur Dialogues as well. And you see him in many channels across India and the US. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today, and also for all the students who asked wonderful questions. I did cover all of your questions which I received. And for all the viewers who will be watching on the YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your feedback. Namaste.
There is one thing which I wanted to add,
Please.
particularly since it is the student community. The student community, as I was a student, we always encouraged people to ask questions. Even Jeopardy, when I came to this country, I realized Jeopardy also was about what's the question. Answers we all have, but what is the question that we are answering? Develop the culture of making an inquiry, asking a question, even if it is an inconvenient truth, as Al Gore talked about, inconvenient truth about climate change. We all need to go back to making inquiries, asking questions. That's the true meaning of freedom of speech. It's not about giving a 20-minute talk on TV or 40 minutes of speech in a park. That's not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is all about making inquiries. That's where asking how, when, what, where, how all this happens. Otherwise, Apple would be falling on the ground every day until somebody had that spark. Why? That's the important thing that we have to bear in mind. So ask questions, learn. That's where the beginning of learning happens. Thank you so much for having me, Aditi, today.
Actually, I will tell you one, since you said that point, most of the universities don't allow students to ask questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're kicked out from the courses. And it happened to my veteran friend, who has served in the Korean War, and he was asking questions. He's going there to re-educate himself in certain skills. And when he asked questions about certain topics, and he was taken off the program. So he's now trying to get back into the program. So it does happen. Yeah.
It
No.
does happen. Yeah.
So thank you so much, and thank you all the viewers for watching, and please ask questions. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.